The important thing to stress about Hendricks is that if he'd been merely a very good cricketer, his case wouldn't be much more than a sad footnote in South Africa's fraught cricketing history. What elevates his case to, I think, the level of tragedy is that he was rather more than just a good cricketer. He was a truly great one. You quote reams of testimony from a great many fine players who came into contact with him, including George Hearn and Billy Murdoch. Actually, a remarkable unanimity of testimony on this point that he was almost the greatest fast bowler they'd ever faced. The only other bowler in the whole history of the game I'm aware of who had virtually all his contemporaries rating him the best would be George Freeman, the great Yorkshire fast bowler of the 1860s and 1870s. But what makes these claims even more impressive in Hendricks's case is that he was deep into his 30s, well past the traditional fast bowler's peak when these encomiums were made. So it seems to me that he ought at the very least to be spoken of in the same breath as Fred Spofforth and George Lohman and Charles the Terror Turner. You know, there are, of course, qualifiers and caveats, but the tragedy of Hendricks, of course, is that he never got the chance to vindicate these claims before a big audience and at the highest level.
Yes, exactly. That's precisely the tragedy, is that he never got to live out what should have been his destiny, his cricketing destiny, and that it was ultimately the beginning of the way in which politics essentially meant that sport did not reflect what South Africa essentially was. But from Hendricks's point of view, he was spoken of as you say, almost unanimously as the fastest bowler and by many as the best bowler that they had faced. But of course, he had a relatively small engagement with English players or with foreign players. Certainly within the South African context, he was recognised as the fastest bowler that was around. And indeed, his results in the chances he got to play against South Africa in high quality cricket, his results show just how good he was. On one occasion, for example, in a club match that he did get to play a first league game, playing against Claremont, he bowled 9 overs, 9 maidens, no runs, and took 9 wickets. And he was clearly several standards above anybody else. Where he did play was he played in the nets and bowled against English touring sides in the nets. And as you say, he's getting on a bit in the 1890s. He's born in 1857, so he's in his mid-30s. He's in his late 30s when Lord Hawke brings the team over in 1896. This is the tour after he played against Reed's side. And Tom Hayward, who's the star Surrey player, indeed probably the best batsman on the tour by some distance. Tom Hayward faces him in the nets. At the end of the tour, Tom Hayward is interviewed in the cricket field and says, and asked who the best bowler he faced on the tour was. And Tom Hayward doesn't think of any of the South African bowlers that he faced in matches or in the tests, or which is where one would normally expect him to go. But it says, in fact, the best bowler I faced in South Africa was Krom Hendricks, but I didn't get a chance to play against him. I just faced him in the nets. And that gives some indication of the esteem in which Hendricks was held, and in fact, just how good he was, that he was able to impress somebody like Hayward merely through a net session.
I mean, it seems pretty well established to me. Your book does a fantastic job of proving this, I think, that he was South Africa's first great cricketer of any race.
That's certainly our view, I think, is that he's a considerable distance ahead of any others. I mean, had all things been equal, had he been able to perform on the global stage, he would have been definitely South Africa's greatest cricketer of the 19th century. And indeed indeed Jimmy Sinclair, I guess, is the next cricketer to that. But for sheer ability, for sheer natural talent, I think Krom Hendricks probably would have outshone even Sinclair.